Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new video for the Machine Quilting Party. Today we're quilting Jagged Cosmos, this beautiful zigzaggy design that starts in the center of your quilting space and zigzags to the outer edges. So let's jump on the machine and learn how to quilt this with walking foot style quilting. So getting started with this design, I have already stitched 4 zigzaggy lines, all coming together at one point. And I've spaced that point just a little bit off center. I just think it looks a little bit more interesting when it's slightly off center. That's just me. Now I'm going to pull up thread. I do that by rotating my bobbin thread, and then I give that top thread a tug, and that is my bobbin thread. So just give it a little tug and then tuck it underneath my walking foot. Now if that feels stuck and you're unable to pull the bobbin thread up to the surface, it's because you haven't made a full rotation, and you just need to rotate your top thread, your hand wheel and your top thread just a little bit more, and then it will work. Okay, so now I'm just going to focus on stitching straight lines and sharp angles. And I'm going to come down, it's almost an echo, but it's an echo that's spreading out from this line from before. So I'm going to kind of follow what was done before, but I'm also at the same time widening the distance between those lines and subtly changing the angles as well. So stitching on down. I do think it's nice to go on ahead and start with 4 lines, just kind of break up your quilting space. Whether you're stitching a real quilt or a square like this, I think breaking it up a little bit is going to be really helpful. Now to reduce some thread breaks, I'm going to be stitching straight off into the batting area and clipping my thread tails short right there. But I am going to have to tie off and bury these thread tails in the center. And I have another video on that. Definitely make sure to watch it if you're curious about how to do this properly. I really think it's important to tie off and secure your thread tails with a knot, and I use a cheater needle to quickly bury it in the middle of my quilt. And you can see I did that in about 20 seconds. It's really not a big deal. Keep your cheater needle handy though. I keep mine on a little pin place, a little single magnet pin cushion, so that way I don't lose that single needle. Keep it right next to my machines, very handy. Okay, I'm going to pull up thread again. We're going to repeat that. Straight line, and you can see how this angle is subtly changing. So I think I'm just going to stitch a straight line all the way down, and that's a-okay. It might look a little different, but that's all right. And then now I'm going to stitch out and then just straight down and over. I think some of the lines are going to end up much simpler than others. And you just kind of have to look at the quilt and figure out what you have space for. In this case, maybe I should have come in at a slightly different angle, maybe come in just a little bit more, but honestly I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'll tie off and bury this thread tail too. So that's taken care of. Pulled up my thread again, and this time I kind of want to think about this just a little bit more. I feel like I've got too much space here and I need to break it up in more lines. So the solution is grab a marking pencil and figure it out. So I think I'm bringing one line in right here, and I'm just marking just a general rough guideline for myself, so that way I know where this is going to go. And then too, if I draw something I don't like, I can erase it and play around with it and figure it out, It's one of those things that sometimes when you're planning a center fill design like this, you've got to just take a little bit more time to think about it and work those lines together in a way that's going to look good. And sometimes it's not easy, like this is ending up just a little bit more open than I would like, but at the same time, it's not horrible. And sometimes I will admit, I can get a little nitpicky and be a little too obsessed about the lines being super evenly spaced apart. And that's really silly when, basically this is a design that's, kind of freeform, freehand. I could mark it with a stencil and have every single line be really matchy-matchy and perfect. Or I could quilt it completely random like this and just allow the texture to be something wild and different. If you start to notice you've got I mean, obviously we're going to have tons of thread breaks all in the center. And if you start to feel like it's just getting to be too much, start your line of quilting maybe 1/8 of an inch away from the centermost point. And that can be a good solution where you're not just always pulling up thread in the exact same hole. Okay, I'm going to erase my lines. The nice thing about the marking pencil, my favorite, is the Fons and Porter ceramic marking pencil for medium to dark fabrics like these. And, you know, if I mark lightly, I can just rub it with my gloves, and that usually will take care of the marks and they'll disappear pretty easily. Now, that being said, if you mark a big quilt and you have all of the marks already done and you're constantly rubbing on it, you can see those marks start to disappear. So you kind of have, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it's nice when you don't want the marks to stick around for them not to stick around. The worst thing is to have a marking pencil that stubbornly refuses to be erased. Can't stand that. Okay, so I planned that out and I'm pretty happy with this. I think that worked out pretty good. You know, I've got a little bit more wider spacing here on the outer edges, but I think that's okay. You know, it's one of those things that you've just got to plan the scale of your design, and the scale is the distance between your lines of quilting. Decide how far apart you want them to be, and then you're gonna it's gonna be a ballpark. You know, it's not gonna be perfect with a design like this because you're gonna have a lot more density and intensity in the middle and a lot more openness in the outer edges. So I quilted 2 more lines in that area, and I have space for basically 1 more line. So I'm going to grab a marking pencil again and just mark the line bisecting that space. So that way it's breaking it up at least in half. I'm going to have slightly bigger spaces right here. That's okay. It's not the end of the world, and honestly, I think this is looking pretty cool. So once I get that marked, drop my foot down. You always want to pull up your bobbin thread with your foot in the down position, so that way you have tension on the thread, and that will give it that will make it possible to pull it through your bobbin area. Sometimes it just doesn't work if your foot's in the up position. So bobbin thread and top thread tuck behind the foot, and then just stitch right on the line I've planned. So I think that's really the best way to tackle jagged plain. Unless you want to mark every single line, go on ahead and break up the space with 4 jagged lines, and then start quilting inside of those spaces. You know, some of the lines completely random, but as you lock down the space and quilt through all of the lines, plan those last few lines to finish off the space and fill it more consistently. And here's what it looks like whenever I finished Jagged Cosmos. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot quilting this design with me today, and you're ready to jump on your machine and give it a try. Now, if you'd like to learn more about walking foot style quilting, please check out my book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day. In this book, I share 30 walking foot style designs as well as 7 fun quilt projects that will really build your skills for quilting on your home sewing machine. So come and check out the book at leahday.com/walkingfoot. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss the next video coming out soon. Until next time, let's go quilt.